Hey guys, I'm eating a pear right now. I'm almost finished. And I was thinking about it when I was eating. And I was thinking, one pear. How much energy did it take for this empty pear, or this eaten pear, to get to me? How much gas? How many miles did it travel? Argentina? Brazil? What are the seasons for this? I wonder. This pear. And that's a lot about what my politics is about. It's energy. What it takes to make the basic ingredients for life. And what it takes to lower the cost of living to make it inexpensive enough to everybody to have a sound quality of life. I had a big falling out with somebody over this issue about the Foundation of America, about useful land and cheap labor. And that was fine. It got all worked around. But then, recently, I almost had the same kind of falling out again with another person. And it's like, for the same reason, the same argument of useful land and cheap labor, except on the flip side, where while you don't want things to be outsourced and junk markets to be insourced, I believe if you're going to supply a quality of life to the people you have living in your localized area, you also need to put a kibosh on the influx of cheap labor and skilled labor too, because you'll want people who are living domestically to be able to move up the ranks as others retire, or hopefully in a more safe world, the few that have accidents or illnesses have to step down, or other people would pursue more interesting pastimes. Like, they're not necessarily in such a demand that they always have to be doctors and lawyers and builders, but they can step down from that and pursue other passions. A sort of pre-retirement, like athletics, art, literature, the more esoteric things that don't necessarily have a stated market value, a direct deposit into society. So that basically, that's what I think, is that we gotta have a balance between the forces that provide for us and the inflow or outflow of people or goods that we're supposed to maintain. Not only for the environment, but for ourselves. We need those things. Of course, my view is always subjective to a localized, alternative energy infrastructure. Because I don't believe in long distance commerce. So I'm always picturing renewable energy, energy from solar and wind, because if it's not sunny, it's usually windy. And that feeds into bio oil, because if we could take our wastes and reallocate them into cheap electricity in a localized area, then you could create cheap materials in the form of plastics or grown materials and build hothouses and other things where you could grow things out of season and you don't need in-source of food, because you can grow it in without the reliance on weather, because you have such cheap materials and energy. So that makes a difference. Of course, that'll be more expensive, but it'll keep the local foods on the shelf instead of having to spend all that gas and money importing them. So yeah, when I talk about immigration and stuff and some people get upset, I'm sorry. But I'm thinking about localized renewable energy, first and foremost. And if that's nationalism or nativism or something, then it is. And I'm not sorry for it, because I think it's a better way. Now, it all has to add up economically and by the numbers, which isn't always profit-based. Just because something's cheaper from a foreign distribution doesn't mean we're not paying for it in a lot of different ways. So the profit model doesn't always apply. Although, unfortunately, without protective tariffs and other things to make it apply, and restrictions on immigration, it won't work. So yeah, it will be a little bit more expensive to give a lot more cost benefit to the individual. Hopefully that's why the renewable energy and the savings from a localized infrastructure that doesn't rely on long lines of commerce and fossil fuels would be the saving factor that would make it cheaper. And that's just why I'm not sorry. But it has to be real, not pipe dream. And that just all comes down to the equations. And what you're willing to spend to stop these problems. Like pollution, global warming, And some of those aren't always money problems, but social problems. Like, just how far are you willing to go to stop immigration? Me, well, who knows? Maybe that's a flaw. So, there's where I am. Eating my pear, considering a better world.